Hello, I'm Cajun Ken, and I'd like to go over a game I've been playing the past few weeks called Fractured. It is currently in Alpha, Test 2, it's Spring Alpha, is what they're calling it. It's been out for about a month, but I've only been playing about the last week. It is similar to Albion Online and other games of that genre, with some different aspects to it. Uh, so I'll make a lot of reference to Albion Online because I've played that one quite a bit. And it's a decent game. Both games are uh, full loot drop PvP and have as a high uh, focal point on PvP, resource gathering, uh, exploring in combat, like such like that. The major differences I find from Albion to Fractured is I actually prefer Fractured's system a little bit better. And these are some of the reasons why. So the first part we're going to go over is we're going to go over exploration. Exploration is a key part to the game. There is many things to do. There is the map, which is huge. Albion's map is pretty large as well, but each zone is instant locks. So, which means going from one zone to the next in Albion, you have to go through a mini load screen. Where in Albion Online, it is an open world, completely open. I can run from one end of the map to the other end of the map at this point. Now, this is subject to change in the future when they start adding the other islands. There are supposed to be 3 islands in total and 3 planets. So that's a total of 9 locations, with PvP ranging from PvE only, with some PvP based off a good alliance, a neutral zone where PvP is allowed, but it's based off your alignment, good, neutral, evil, and then open PvP. So similar to Albion or EVE Online, only thing like that when it comes to PvP, you have your safe zone, your caution zone, and then your free for all zone. Uh, in the map is, like I said, the map is huge, but within that map there is many nodes to go through. They have different settlements, which are all player owned, or towns. They vary in sizes based off how their ranks. There's combat hotspots, which, when undiscovered, is indicated by a question mark. And then once you find them, it tells you more about it. One of the spots that I found that I farmed up on was the. Sorry about that clicking. Was the goblin camps. I farmed up all of those. I did play a little bit with some other people, but that was one of the hot spots. Now, in these goblin camps, there were also 2 types of creatures you can find within those camps that are unique to those camps and are like mini bosses. That was the goblin shaman and the goblin war chief. The next part is there's legendary altars or legend altars. Now, from what the devs were saying, these are based off of creatures in the wild. They performed either good feats or bad feats or whatever. They did something to become legends, got the blessings of the gods. They range from easy difficulty, which is a 2 to 3 man party, medium, which is 5 to 10 men, I believe is what they said, and then legendary, which is 10 plus. These are important because as you explore, you would get knowledge, which we'll go over more later, which you need for different things in the games. There are resource nodes out there, so such as mining, farm plots with fertile soil. So mining includes iron, gold, silver, tin, copper. I think that's the 5 that are currently in the game. And then you use those to smelt into bars. We'll go more into crafting later on. There is also a port system on the edge of the map around major cities, which from those ports you can take and fast travel to another port on the edge of the map somewhere. The port system is based off of weight, so the more inventory space you have filled up, or the more weight you are carrying, the more expensive the port will cost. This goes for if you're hauling a cart, it'll affect the price and whether the cart's empty or full. This helps mitigate some of the travels between the cities from running back and forth. Let's go over some combat. Combat is action-based, which means it's not click and auto attacks will happen. You must constantly click, or performing abilities. I feel that with combat, mages are more powerful than are the strongest builds you can make as of right now. They have the highest damage output, mainly because they have their spells. Melees have their advantages, but a lot of their attacks are based off of ongoing effects. So the effect will happen, it'll go on a cooldown, and then a few seconds later, it'll automatically reactivate. With that being said, it is very, very daunting to attack sometimes, because you have to sit there and hold your mouth to attack. If you let go, it'll stop attacking. As playing for a week, I figured out that if you hold the right click, it'll force the attack and you will not move. Some of the people in our party did not know that after playing for a week. So just a little hint there. As you kill creatures, you gain knowledge. Knowledge is what you use to unlock abilities that you learned from a creature or from an NPC or that you gain. It's also how you buy your talents. Combat skills are different than most games. In most games, you level up your character, you gain your skills. Well, in Fractured, instead of doing that, you gain knowledge for killing the creatures, and you can learn from them. Every ability you see an NPC use, no matter what level it is, you have the ability to learn that skill. You have to kill it so many times to learn the skill until you learn it. You start off, and most creatures give anywhere from 2 to 5% knowledge on that creature, which unlocks how much health they have, what kind of attacks they use, what spells they use. It gives you their stats, resistances, everything can be learned through knowledge. Once you have that creature up to 100% knowledge, you will no longer gain knowledge about it. So you got to be careful, like constantly finding new creatures, exploring the map, pushing around. Now each creature can learn, so if one creature knows Fireball, you can go find another creature that also uses Fireball, but it will be hidden until you learn it, figure out what that spell is. Player base, your character base. You may know what it is, but your character does not. Doesn't matter if you unlock it again. It doesn't power it up. It doesn't do anything. Now I wish it would. So if multiple creatures had it, you unlock it multiple times, you can gain a power rank into it, or something of that effect. That way, abilities aren't one level. You use it, it's going to be the same amount of damage based off your modifiers. Melee to me felt a little clunky, but not bad. It's better than most alphas I've played in. The only reason why it felt clunky is you left click to move, attack, loot corpses, everything, unless you use a force attack. The problem with using a force attack constantly is that if they move outside of your melee range, you don't move towards them. So you constantly have to be going back and forth between a force attack and your normal attacks. That way you can keep up with them. You have to spread the corpses out because they stack on top of each other. You won't be able to loot them. There is no group loot. So melee felt a little clunky, which pretty much all the auto attacks felt this way. Even when I was using the bow, my friends that I was playing with said spells felt the same way, unless it was an area of effect spell, not a target spell. The spells felt more powerful, mainly because of cooldowns, damage, and modifier. Melees, you use ongoing skills. So you activate a skill, it's ongoing once it triggers. Like I was using Bash for melee, which every 8 seconds my attack is guaranteed to hit at plus 50% damage and guarantees a stun for 4 seconds. That was my only power boost for my melee attacks, other than my modifiers from strength and the weapons, other than enchantments and stuff like that you put on the gear. But it was flat. Where when a mage can auto attack a spellcaster and then rotate his spells, so not only did he have his base attack, which did damage, he could also cast 3 or 4 spells close together doing damage. Now it wasn't like in most games I can use my bash, it'll activate, then turn around and use a cleave, it'll activate. If I use the cleave ability, it was a passive ability, so it just kind of went and replaced my bash. It felt a little clunky. There wasn't much of a rotation. It's situational, which ability you want to use, so it took up your points in your bar. The Book of Knowledge. That's where you go to see what creatures you have found, what spells they could drop, how many spells they can drop, if they had, or you can learn from them if they have any at all. And it's very easy to determine at which point you learn those abilities. So say you're fighting a creature and it has 3 abilities you can learn. So once you hit it at 30%, you learn the first ability. At 60%, you learn the second. At 90%, you learn the third. So on and so forth. So divide it by 3. The only one I found, like if it's 4 spells you can learn from it, it'll be 25, 50, 75, 100. 30, when it was only at 3, was kind of the little funny area. If it had 2, it'd be 50 and 100. Gear. There is no restriction on gear. For the most part, you don't have to jump in the game, grind up your armor until you can use the next level armor, next tier of armor. You can jump in the game right away. Someone you know has been playing for a while, he can make you tier 4 gear, give it to you, and you can equip it. There's no restriction behind it. No way to power it up besides enchantments. I think this system with gear could use a little bit of work. Maybe take something similar to Albion, but use their own twist. The more you use the mace, for example, which is the main weapon I use, you gain knowledge with mace use, which will increase your damage slightly, not much, but enough to where in the end it'll matter. That way you can specialize a little more. It's not bad the way it is. I just feel there's no reward for any pure build. You can do anything you want at any time, and there's no replications for it besides switching your attribute points, which you can do once a week. So I feel it's just, hey, I want to be a mage today, I'm going to go be a mage. I equip the best gear, go out there and be just up front. Oh, I want to try tanking today, equip the best gear in the game, and go. Now, this is an alpha. I understand that there is improvements to be made, and they're going to work on it. So there is a little bit of, but for me, it was fun. It was fun to go around killing all these creatures and learning their abilities, and then trying to figure out, hey, what ability works with this build, and then going from there. Now, when you do your builds, you select your skills, you have a restriction, sort of. It's kind of like a little gate. It's called memory. You can only remember a certain amount of spells. So for my tank, and each spell has a certain memory. So for my tank, some of the abilities I had equipped, they cost 2, some cost 4, some cost 6, and you can go up to a certain number. Which for me, because I didn't put anything in willpower as a tank, I can only have 25 memory slots. So that means the maximum amount of points I can use was 25. Which 2 of my spells that I was using cost 6. That's 12. That's almost half, little under half of my total memory between 2 abilities. Now granted, these 2 abilities were extremely powerful, so it wasn't a big deal. But then I had my a little minor heal, which I think is way underpowered. It needs to scale a little more, or something needs to work with it, because a flat 228 hit points every 4 seconds is kind of lackluster. That, and then there's also an ability called Healing Wave, which the range of it is very, very short. These are a few examples. Now, these you can learn them from anywhere. When you start out, I didn't know minor healing that well. I had to go find a creature that dropped minor healing and then learn it so I can actually equip it to my character, which made my character a lot more survivable. With that, we'll be done with combat. Let's dive a little more into gearing and enchanting. Gearing and enchanting is a key part to combat. It helps in certain ways. So we're going to dive into that a little bit. Smelting. So when you go out and gather ore, it's slow. It's a heavy resource, which you have light resource and heavy resource. A heavy resource is an item that you carry in your hand that doesn't go into your inventory. If you remember Black Desert Online, you had these packs you had to transfer from one side to another. It's similar, except for you could put into a cart and move up to 30 at a time, but it was time consuming. You had to go mine it, put it in the cart, take it back, and then do the same thing over and over and over again. It doesn't stack in your inventory, which gives it more realistic, because you wouldn't carry a whole bunch of iron ore in your pocket. It just doesn't make sense. But the drawback to the full loot drop for PvP, gearing up, is very, very time consuming. Such as, so to make any kind of ore, to smelt any ore, doesn't matter if it's an advanced ore, if it's a advanced ingot, or a regular ingot, it will require 4 hours of real world time, no matter how much it is. So casting iron, gold, it takes 4 hours regardless. Now every time you go to smelt, you have to have coal. So coal is a huge resource, or charcoal. So coal is your primary base. If you put iron into 2 iron, or 5, and it takes 5 ore to make 1 ingot of every type of ingot. So if you need iron ore, you need 5 iron ore and a minimum of 3 coal to make 1 steel bar. There is no iron besides blood iron, but that is an advanced ingot, which is iron ore and copper, which at that point you need 3 coal, 5 iron, and 5 copper to make that 1 bar. Plus you need an advanced furnace so you can smelt 2 bars, or 2 different types of ore together. Tanning is another one. It is a little ridiculous, in my opinion. To tan hide, which hide you can do, it's in your inventory, it's raw, you can process it to regular hide, no problem. But when it goes to turning it into leather, it takes 15 hours of real world time. Now, if you were just going to do a medium armor build, that is a long time to wait to make your armor. Now, you can build multiple tanning beds, like I did for a while there, and each tanning bed holds 8, so you can do 8 at a time every 15 hours if you only built 1 tanning bed. I built, I think, 8 tanning beds, so 8 times 8, 64. I can do 64 every 15 hours, which if you do it in large bulks like that, it's not bad, but you have to farm it all up, which doesn't take long as you know where to get it. The next thing I want to cover is enchanting. Enchanting is extremely complicated if you just open up the menu and look at it. But after you figure it all out, it's actually quite easy. So certain abilities like life regen or health regen is what it's actually called. You want to put that on your piece of armor. You have to have 4 attributes you get from any item in the game, pretty much. Not berries, but like animal bones, stuff like that, bay leaves. They all have 3 attributes on it, which can be, it's a long list. You have elemental resources like earth, fire, air, life, death. There's different ones, and you have to match them up with a minimum of 2 points at each of the 4 slots that the enchantment requires out of the 3 that are on your resources you're putting in, your reagents. The higher your reagent score you put in, the better the enchantment. As of my testing so far, I have not been able to get higher than tier 1 enchantments. I don't know if that was because of the city I was in and the guy being AFK, the governor. But since then, we recently moved to another city, and I'm working on getting everything set up. I'm going into some more advanced smelting, which is how I figured out about the blood ore, the iron and copper. And one of the biggest things I disagree so far with the way this has worked is how things are locked behind your city. So I was going more of a tank build, so I built the furnace on my plot and everything, and I was going to make a set of full plate armor for my tank. Well, with our governor being inactive and not a high ranking, we did not have the technology of the city in order to build or to make plate armor. That should not be locked behind a city requirement. It should be more on the player base, I feel. Because plate armor is not hard to make. Now, if you want to go ahead and lock quality improvement behind it, because on my plot we can make fine and good quality only. And from what I was hearing about, if you use a city smelting, you get 2. You can go excellent or perfect. So that gives you 4 when only your plot locks you behind 2. That I can see, because that's talking basically like in real world, you'd be talking to other blacksmiths, figuring it out, and working together. But locking a certain gear set behind the city and not being able to use it at all is kind of unrealistic and a little ridiculous, in my opinion. Now, so enough about the enchanting and the lock behind cities and whatnot. So each city has different plots you can build your house on. You can build your plot processing equipment on, tanning beds, smelters, furnace, all that stuff. I forgot to mention that earlier, but it's not that hard. There is a wood cutting table that you would need to cut planks, which you're going to need for shields, bows, staffs, things of that nature that you can only get from this process. Oh, another thing about the leather is needed for most of your gear, even when it goes into plate. So yes, it takes 4 hours to smelt your ore, which isn't a whole lot of time, but in the long run, when you can only, well, it is when you can only do 1 ore at a time, and it takes 5 ingots. You have to build multiple smelters in order to get up. But also, when you go to make your plate armor or your chainmail, it usually has leather also is required for making the gear. So if you smelt everything up, you do everything perfectly to make a plate armor or chainmail, you will need a minimum of 15 hours in order to make it. On a full loot drop system, that is a long time to wait to make your armor or to work on your armor. So there should be some adjustments here and there. But other than that, the way the game played out, it was one of the best alphas I've played, in my opinion. I haven't played a whole lot. I just got done doing some testing with Titan Reach. Titan Reach was very small map, very limited amount of creatures. I think you only had 5 creatures you can kill, maybe 6. And that was it. And that was our alpha. This one, you had multiple creatures, you had multiple difficulties, you had in-game grinding that you could do. There was a lot more to it. Now, a lot of the world felt empty at sometimes. Sometimes it felt overcrowded. So there needs to be a little more balancing there between where mobs are spawning and some are not. But it is an alpha. This is only a test, so we can get a feel of the game. So there's a lot more that needs to be done. But all in all, I enjoyed the game. I look forward to getting up, going to work, coming home, and getting on the game. I actually look forward to it. There needs to be more improvement, yes. Is it ready for launch? No. But it was enjoyable for me. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed the grind. It wasn't too tedious. Like some other games where that similar systems where you would sit there and kill thousands and thousands and thousands of mobs of the same mob just to get a little bit of knowledge or reputation behind it or whatever. This one, it was a set amount. You killed the mob, you gained it, you knew where your points were to unlock abilities. And it was like a treasure hunt half the time. Hey, I wonder what abilities this creature drops, so I'm going to kill it. Oh, I like that ability. Now I need to go to a tavern, equip it all. So I enjoyed it very, very much. That's going to be all for this video. If you enjoyed the video, please leave a like and subscribe down below. Let me know what I can use to improve on my videos. This is my first one I've done that's not been a full gameplay with commentary. So I'm still relatively new to YouTube. If you enjoyed it, tell me what you enjoyed. If not, tell me what I did wrong and how I can improve. Other than that, I will see you in the next video. And enjoy, and I hope you have a wonderful day.